So people often come to me for car buying advice, and a lot of these questions revolve around the BMW E39. So in today's video, I am going to answer some of the most common questions. And if you are in the market looking for a BMW E39, if you watch this video, I will tell you what are the things you want to look out for if you are buying one of these, which is the best variant of the BMW E39 to buy when you inspect the car, what you want to look out for, and when you drive the car, what are the signs you want to watch out for. So as you can see here, this is the E39 facelift non-M Sport model. So what are the cues that differentiate between a facelift or M Sport versus a non-M Sport? Well, the facelift of course have these unique angel eye lights. They're not so unique anymore these days, but back in the day when these first came out, they were one of a kind. They were the only ones that have a noticeable lighting four-eye signature, and that created a whole new trend for headlights that continues until today. Now, with the E39 facelift, it comes from the factory. It is really a choice whether you want the car to have amber or clear signal lights. It's either or, and unlike common perception, it does not depend whether your car is M Sport or not. So my own car has the amber signal lights, which I personally prefer, and this one here, well, has the clear lens type of signal lights. The other cue here is that with the non-facelift model, this trim here is black and it has a chrome strip at the bottom. In the facelifted cars, these are now painted and the chrome strip is still removed, unless it is an Alpina E39, so which means an Alpina E39 facelift would therefore has this painted strip with a chrome lining on top. So here, this part here, the fog lamp with the facelift E39 is also slimmer compared to that of the pre-facelift. The pre-facelift has a sort of like a square-shaped fog lamp, whereas here is a smaller circular one, a slimmer, more elegant, more refined design. So here the tail lights, once again, the E39 facelift pioneered a new generation of tail lights with the unique 4-bar Celis design. Now the pre-facelift E39s have the bulb type tail lights, and a lot of owners try to retrofit these facelift taillights into the pre-facelift cars, but there is just one piece of bad news. It is not interchangeable, the facelift and non-facelift taillights. Firstly, the wiring is incompatible, and secondly, actually physically does not fully fit. If you really want to put it in, it actually requires, well, some rather harsh modifications to the bodywork inside. Now, of course, the OEM supplier of E39 taillights, Hella, actually released a retrofit kit that allows you to have this design tail lamp on a pre-facelift E39, but that includes a little wiring ballast that helps you step the voltage, the current from the car's body into the correct voltage so as you do not burn these taillights. Now, there have been owners that mistakenly install the retrofit taillights into facelift cars, or original facelift taillights into pre-facelift cars for the purpose of retrofit, and end up burning this LED strip. So that is something you do not want to do. Now, but the sad thing also about the E39 taillights is that over age, they can be prone to water leaking. So, and the sad part is that the gaskets are not replaceable. So, yeah, every once in a while, you may have to look for replacement taillights. Now, first thing about our car here is that this is no longer the original key. You see, the E39's original key is designed to have a non-replaceable battery. They design it in such a way that the car continuously charges the battery when it is switched on. But batteries eventually have a lifespan, and a lot of times when this battery dies, owners resort to getting replacement aftermarket keys. Still got a BMW logo, but this is aftermarket because the original keys simply are too expensive for most owners. Now let's get inside, and this, well, looks pretty much like my own car, but there are of course some subtle differences because, well, it's a different year and a different spec. Now we're going to start the engine first. A few things to watch out for with regards to this car. This has the same high grade OBC that comes with my 520i, and you would notice this little dot here. This is what we call the tamper dot. It means that the mileage that is displayed on the instrument cluster here does not tally with the mileage on the ECU. Now usually this means that the mileage of the cluster has either been adjusted before, or in the case of this particular example, you see this JPN, I suspect that this car at some point in time had swapped into a different meter cluster. If you are buying this car, or if you're buying any E39s in general, and you notice the tamper dot, well, that is not exactly deal breaking per se, but what you will want to do is to get a BMW specialist to diagnose the car and get the actual mileage reading out of the ECU. Now this steering wheel here, this is actually my favorite steering wheel of the E39. This is also available in the E34. They call this the sport steering. There's another version of this steering that has this part here blacked and with an M logo, so that's the M Sport steering. That one has a thicker rim. Those steering wheels go for about 1,000 over ringgit in the used parts market. This one in this design also would go for about 800-900 ringgit. I bought this actually for my 525i last time to give that car a bit of a differentiation. Why I didn't get it from my 520i was because the 4-spoke uncle steering design has one feature that this one does not have, is that it had the recirculating button on the steering wheel. So here in cars with this steering, for example, whenever you want to toggle aircon recirculation, you have to press this button, and you can see here in this car the aircon recirculation button versus the other buttons, slightly different color and texture, means that this button has already been previously replaced. Now this console here is of one grade lower than the one in my car because this button here is empty, and for reasons that I do not understand, when I press these two buttons, what happens is that it deactivates this row of displays as opposed to flashing out the body control that allow me to access and reset the trip computer. One thing that surprised me, however, is that despite this being the 530i, it has ASC rather than DSC. And to recap, in BMW speak for this model generation, ASC is traction control, meaning that all it does is it controls the engine output. It acts exclusively on the rear wheels. DSC is full stability control, which means that not only does it retard the power sent to the wheels, it also has the capability to individually brake each wheel to stabilize the car again in the event of a skid. Now this car here, this trim piece is evidently been renewed. Okay, it feels fresh. This piece also feels fresh. Normally this part here, there are a lot of cracks. There with a crack at the corner. The lid is gone, but this owner has put in carpet here to line it up. And this is a very popular accessory with E39 owners, whereby this space here, you see a lot of times this cup holder is deemed flimsy. So what a lot of owners do is that they use this space as an accessory parcel, or they just put a cup holder here. In fact, I myself am working on a wireless Qi charger that would be put in this place, but right now I'm in a stage of finalizing the design. Now open this, you can see this part here also, this tray has been renewed. So what I can tell you is that this evidence here shows that this car has gone through a round of refresh by the current owner. It's not 100% perfect, but a lot of things that you expect them to be typically worn out in E39, they look, well, pleasingly fresh. Now this roof lining here, now this is another weak point of the E39. A lot of them, their roof liners have sagged, but most of them also would have their roof liners redone anyways. So this one has been redone in black, okay, complete black. You see, even the trim pieces are black, seat belts are black, A-pillar are black, this one is black, even the sun visors, all is black, everything black. What I believe is that one of the previous owners may have replaced this with an M Sport roof. In most countries, when you have specified the E39 with M Sport, the pillars, everything are all blacked out. Okay, and one more cool thing about the E39, and if your E39 has powered front seats, check this out. The seat rests are power adjusted, the headrests are power adjusted. Cool, right? So I'm going to show you the back. There's nothing much here to be shown, but in this example, the rear sun visor, which is powered, is unfortunately broken. Surprisingly, this car does not have sunshades with the rear doors. My 520i had that. And you can see here armrests. So this car also has powered steering adjustment, tilt and telescopic. So overall, the interior condition of this car is well taken care of. It's not 100% perfect. Like you see, even right there, there are some minor flaws. But this definitely is, by standards of most E39s out there in the market, I would consider this to be at least 8.5 or 9 out of 10 grade cabin. Now, a lot of people ask me, when it comes to buying the E39, which variant should you go for? The answer to this question really depends on which market that you are viewing this video from. Now, of course, in Europe, diesel variants of the E39 are very popular, but I don't have enough experience with those cars to give any form of comments. I heard they're not bad, but mostly for the rest of the world, the E39 largely, we are more familiar with the petrol variants. And if, let's say, like, you're watching this from North America, the debate is whether would you want to go for the 6-cylinder models or the V8 models. You see, because the V8s naturally give you more power, but the thing is that in the E39, the 6-cylinder and the V8s have different steering configurations because of the bulk of the V8 engines, and this includes the M5. V8 powered models have recirculating ball steering, which is basically taken from the E34, whereas the 6-cylinder E39s have rack and pinion steering. So totally different setup, and the general consensus is that the 6-cylinder models, because of the rack and pinion steering, they have slightly sharper handling compared to the V8 models. And of course, in Malaysia, the V8s, well, maybe because of the high road tax, they are not very popular. So if you are maintaining a V8 powered E39 in our market, in some occasions parts are not quite so readily available compared to the 6-cylinder models. So where the Malaysian market is concerned, the question then becomes, which of the 6-cylinder variants do you choose from? And for most people, the common wisdom is the 525i M54 engine. Because why? Because that is where you need to pay only 800 ringgit of road tax, but you do still get 190 horsepower. Whereas if you compare with the older 528i, you pay double the road tax for the same amount of 192 horsepower. Then right at the top, we have the 3-liter 530i, which, well, paid 2,100 ringgit road tax. And it is the reason why during the time of the E39, there were not many people who bought the 530i precisely because of this reason. But let me tell you this, if you are planning to buy an E39 for keeps, the variant you may actually want to get is the 530i. Let me explain why. You see, there's a very funny situation going on in terms of the relationship of used car values between the E39 and the E60. Right now, as I record this in 2023, we are at a point in time whereby E39 values in many cases are higher than that of the E60, particularly the 530i. And when you look at the market, you will see why. There are plenty of E60 530i's in the market, but E39 530i's, only a handful. Because you see, during the time of the E60, people were a lot more receptive, a lot more willing to accept 3-liter road tax. So as a result, BMW sold a lot more E60 530i's compared to E39 530i's. But here's the thing, with the E39, in order to properly enjoy, to fully enjoy the E39's dynamic competence, you want the power of the 530i. So to sum up, there were basically 3 family of engines that powered the 6-cylinder variants of the E39. There was the M52 single one-nose engines. These were the ones available from launch, available in 2-liter displacement, powering the 520i, 2.5 in the 523i, and 2.8 in the 528i. Now, you may be wondering, why is the 2.5-liter model badged as a 523i? See, the reason being is that the M52 engine, compared to the M50 engine that came before, was vastly detuned for reasons of emission. So if you were to look at the outputs of the M50 engine, you would find that the M50 2.5 produces more outputs compared to the M52 2.5 and has the same peak horsepower, in fact, as the M52 2.8. Then in 1998, BMW updated the M52 engine with double one-nose technology. And here is the thing. The M52 single one-nose cars versus the M52 double one-nose cars are hugely different. BMW made a lot of changes to the cars mechanically, so much so that there are a lot of non-interchangeable components between the M52 and the M52 TU cars. So, and the even funnier thing is that whether you are M52 or M52 TU, the peak outputs are the same. It's just that the M52 TU with double one-nose gets better mid-range torque and also better fuel economy. And if you need to recap, VANOS is BMW's variable valve timing system, and single one-nose means that there's variable valve timing on the intake valves. Double one-nose is variable valve timing on the intake and the exhaust valves. Then in the year 2001, well, BMW changed the M52 TU to the M54. Now you see, the interesting thing is this: between M50, M52 TU and M54, there are more similarities between the M52 TU versus the M54 compared to the M52 TU versus the single one-nose M52. So yeah, it's getting a bit complicated, but hear me out on this. So the M54 has a much more aggressive tuning compared to the M52. And with the M54, you had the 2.2 liter, which is the 520i, which is the same engine as my car. That made 170 horsepower from 2.2 liter displacement, same as the 523i that came before, but with slightly lesser torque. Then we have the 2.5 liter 525i that made 192 horsepower, which is incidentally same as what you previously got in the 528i. And finally, we have the 3-liter 530i with 231 horsepower, 300 Newton meters of torque. That, on paper, is more than what you get with the new generation N20 2-liter turbo engine, which means that if I were to take this 530i, I can conceivably keep up with, say, an F30 320i or an F10 520i on the highways, no sweat. So, performance-wise, the E39 chassis really is best matched with the 3-liter engine. And here is the best part. The very factor that stopped a lot of people from buying the 3-liter engine, this little thing called road tax. Well, the M54 530i's, they are within 2 or 3 years away from qualifying for classic car road tax. And I believe that is a point when the 530i, because it now is eligible for, it will then be eligible for classic car road tax. It is the 6-cylinder E39 with the best power to weight ratio. It is also the rarest original 530i's will see an upswing in their values the moment these cars qualify for classic car road tax. Yeah. So why am I saying all this? It is because right now, at this moment, I'm behind the wheel of this 530i, and I have to say, this compared to the 520i and the 525 that I used to own, the 3-liter engine just brings the day-to-day drivability of the E39 to another level. Because you see, the first advantage of the 3-liter engine is that takeoff from standstill is so much more effortless, right? The engine needs to exert considerably less effort than my 2.2 or my previous 2.5. And once you are up to speed, the way it gathers speed is also a lot more effortless. So the chief appeal of the 530i really, compared to the 2.2 or the 2.5, is that you get a much more effortless performance in all driving situations. And I mean in city, both in city as well as on the highways. It is a lot more effortless, and as a result, a lot more pleasant to drive, a lot less tiring to drive. Now, this car is fitted in standard suspension compared to the M Sports that I retrofitted on my car, and I can tell you immediately off the bat, the ride comfort is fantastic. This car is supremely comfortable over a variety of terrain, and but the thing that still gets to me, that is really, really vivid, is how much more effortless, how much easier it is to get this car to accelerate and overcome its inertia. Because with my 520i, because the engine has 100 Newton meters less torque and maybe even less at the mid-ranges, getting that car to move, to accelerate, you just need more revs on the dial. You need to work the engine harder. Your right foot needs to step on the pedal harder. You need to deal with more noise. And as a result, you are just working harder driving the car day-to-day basis. Here in this 530i, even though I'm in an environment that is completely identical to my own car, I can tell you it feels vastly different, right? When I see gaps, I overtake with a lot more confidence, even compared to the 525i. So quite simply put, the first piece of advice that I would give anybody prospecting for an E39 is that if you have the chance to buy a 530i, you should absolutely grab it, and this car will be worth a slight premium over even the best condition 520i or 525i. Now, one of the common cliches in car reviews is that different engine sizes often affect the handling of the car. Now, with the case of the E39, that is true when you're choosing between V8 or inline 6. But when you are choosing between one inline 6 to another, I can report to you right now from extensive personal experience, whether you are talking about 520i or 525i or 530i, they all handle the same. Okay, the M54 engine, regardless of displacement, it weighs almost the same up front. The only difference, slight difference, is that the 530i has slightly bigger brakes. Some people say that it affects it makes the steering feel slightly heavier, but well, no difference for me, because both my E39s, I had already converted them to 530i front brakes, and for good reason, because the smaller front discs that came with the 520 and the 525, they were a little under-spec. The bigger discs that comes here with the 530, they offer just the right amount of stopping power for the car's weight. What I can say is that the 530i here, you get all the benefits, all the good things of the 520i, 525i, none of the drawbacks and extra performance. The only thing is, you just bear with that 2,000 ringgit road tax for another couple of years. Pop, you get classic car road tax, and the value of these cars will increase for sure. Look, if you're one of those guys who already have your modern cars and you want to revisit your old dreams of owning a BMW E39, I can pretty much assure you, you need to look at nothing less than a 530i, or what you will be faced with is a thoroughly underwhelming experience, because as great as the E39's handling is, straight line performance, it really does not compare with most modern cars of, you know, like things like if you're accustomed to an F30 performance, kind of performance, for example, you jump into even an E39 525i, totally different. But the 530i here has just about enough grunt to keep up. Fuck. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Walao, I'm shocked, man. I've driven faster cars, honestly, but there's just the way the E39 is put together that everything feels so cohesive. So all I can say is, if you are looking at an E39 and if you are looking at a 530i, I can assure you, I can 100% assure you, there is a difference. There is a difference. So what you're seeing here is the engine bay of an E39 with the M54 engine. Now, the M54 engine versions of the E39, whether it's the 520i, 525i or 530i, are indeed the most sought after amongst the 6-cylinder variants, chiefly because they produce the highest amount of power. But here's the thing, visually, the M54 and the M52 TU look almost the same, bar a few minor differences. Now, how do you tell whether the engine you're looking at is an M54 or an M52 TU? As only 3 visual cues. Okay, firstly, it's this rail. The M52 TU has 2 rails here as opposed to one here in the M54. And also versions with the M52 TU engine would have a port here for the OBD plug-in, and also the M52 TU versions will not have this heat shield here surrounding the ABS module. Why? Because in the M52 TU, the catalytic converter is situated further back, whereas the M54 cars have their catalytic converters closer to the engine bay. Therefore, the ambient temperature inside the engine bay is hotter and thus requires extra heat shielding to protect the ABS modules. So one of the things about the E39 facelift is that the ABS module is a common point of failure. Another thing to watch out for is that these hoses which contain brake fluid, they also leak pretty often, these small hoses, so you may want to check that out when you're inspecting a car. Another thing to watch out for is right here, this L joint. It's a very cheap little L joint. It's a very small L joint. This part here also has a tendency of leaking coolant, so you probably want to inspect that. Now, one thing about the M52 TU and M54 engines, one component that you have to look out for really is this. This is what we call the DISA valve, and what it does is that it's a flap that opens and closes airflow so that it is to maximize the torque gap. Now, what happens is that this piece here is plastic. The flap inside is plastic. Over age, it degrades, and what happens is that it is sometimes prone to breaking and gets sucked into the engine, and you get your engine condemned. This is the power steering fluid reservoir. It is common for this to leak. This thing supplied by ZF, the remedy for this is to replace an O-ring. Other things here in this engine bay, these two are the cabin air filters. This is the signature look of the E39. If you, let's say, open an E46 engine bay, you may see this M54 engine here, but you won't see these two cabin filters right there at the edge. So here we have it, a quick buying guide of the BMW E39 that you have been asking for. As the information in this video have been accumulated over 5 years owning 2 different units of the E39, and I hope what I've shared with you today has been useful for you. This car on display here is actually for sale, and if you are interested, you can contact the number on your screen now to find out more and arrange a viewing. This example here is an original locally assembled, made in Malaysia 530i, and in 2 or 3 years time this car qualifies for classic car road tax, and that means the barrier, the whole concern about every having to pay 2,100 ringgit for road tax is going to be gone in a couple of years. And I believe at that time that it will be the time when E39 530i's, because of their rarity in our markets and because of the just added level of performance and refinement that they offer over other variants of the E39, these cars will substantially appreciate in their value. So if you want to get your hands on this now while you still can, please contact the number on your screen or reach out to the Evo Club Car Wash team. But of course, if you prefer other variants of the E39, or maybe you're just watching this video from outside of Malaysia, well, now is still a good time to buy one of these cars, even though prices have gone slightly up from in recent times. You see, the reason why is that the E39 has went through a phase whereby a bunch of affluent owners who wanted to relive their childhood dreams bought these cars, lavished a lot of attention and resources to restore them. Now they are ready to move on to other projects, and they are letting these cars go. So if you are looking to relive that teenage or childhood dream of owning one of these, now is an especially good time to do so. And I hope that the info that I share with you in this video is helping you along your journey. And I invite you that if you have any questions or comments regarding BMW E39 ownership, you are most welcome to drop a line in the comment section below, or you can hit me up in our Telegram group where I will be able to personally answer your questions. So that's it from me today. If you found this video useful, give it a like and do subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so. Hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any upcoming videos I might have, whether it's a car review, a car care series video, or any other featured stuff. If you have any car buying, car care, car maintenance questions that you need answered, remember that every Monday night, Bobby, Tana, Thomas, and myself are live on Facebook and YouTube to take your questions live. And finally, of course, if you have any car care or car washing, car detailing needs, you can always contact the Ewo Club Car Wash team. We are more than ready to assist you or share with you our latest offers and promos. So until my next video, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Okay, normally for the engine, we just wipe it, but this one too dirty, we betahan. So we told the owner to upgrade to a full engine wash. And just degrade.
The best PA I've heard from them is yeah,